Here are today's top stories. Malacanang insists the Philippines was never part of the International Criminal Court as the country's withdrawal from the tribunal takes effect. Authorities arrest a 17-year-old suspect in the gruesome killing of a teenager in Cebu. The NDRRMC raises blue alert over parts of Mindanao targeted by tropical depression Chedeng. And BFAR tells fishermen to brace themselves for the effects of El Niño.
Good day, I'm Rom Dulfo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. The Philippines has officially withdrawn from the International Criminal Court or ICC amid flack over the government's war on drugs. But Malacanang maintains the country was never part of the ICC to begin with. Benj Bondok has a story.
Malacanang has insisted that the Philippines was never a member of the International Criminal Court as the country's withdrawal became effective on Sunday. In a statement, presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo says the Philippines never became a state party to the Rome Statute that created the ICC, so there is no basis for it to investigate the Duterte administration's war on drugs. He says if the tribunal should proceed with the investigation, it would mean that it is violating its own provisions by meddling in the country's sovereignty, and that ICC can only have jurisdiction if a state party's courts are unwilling or unable to carry out investigation on the crimes. Meanwhile, President Rodrigo Duterte said the treaty is not effective nor enforceable in the Philippines, and the acts attributed to him do not fall under ICC jurisdiction. He said legitimate police operations resulted in drug-related deaths. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Benj Bondo.
200 key representatives from 76 government agencies convened today for a two-day conference on federalism. DILG Secretary Eduardo Año says the activity aims to ensure the commitment of the different agencies in the advocacy campaign to shift towards a federal system of government. Among the speakers are DILG Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya, Dr. Alex Brillantes of UP National College of Public Administration or UP NCPAD, Professor Ramon Casiple of Institute for Political and Electoral Reform, DILG NCR Regional Director Maria Lourdes Agustin, among others. The two-day conference is being held at the Heritage Hotel in Pasay City from March 18 to 19. Magat Dam still has enough water to supply in Isabela up to end of April this year. According to Pag-asa, Magat may still provide irrigation water for some 20 to 35 days more. However, it says the dam's water may reach a critical low, 160 meters by mid-April when the harvest season ends. Magat's supply is expected to recover starting May when Isabela experiences rain in time for the palay planting season in June. The Chinese embassy is set to donate an additional 15 million peso worth of IT equipment to PCOO. The communications chief Martin Andanar says the agency expects to receive the amount sometime in May or June. This aid comes on top of the 140 million peso worth of radio and broadcasting equipment donated by the Chinese embassy. Andanar took pride in revitalizing PCOO under the Duterte administration. He says political will is necessary to carry out reforms within the department. Last month, Chinese Ambassador Zhao Zhanhua led the turnover ceremony of computers, camcorders, and teleprompters to the Philippine News Agency and Radyo Pilipinas. Groups from Baseco Compound help clean up Manila Bay, and the Quezon City government monitors the city's water supply. More on these and other news around the metro from Benj Bondo.
Residents and concerned groups from Baseco Compound in Port Area, Manila joined the rehabilitation of Manila Bay. Students and NGOs led the cleanup drive from the coastline to the Baseco area on Sunday. The cleanup drive has become a regular activity by the community since the government started Manila Bay's rehabilitation. Meanwhile, the Philippine Navy led the blessing of one of 5 Beechcraft King Air C-90 aircraft donated by the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force at Headquarters Naval Air Group in Sangley Point, Cavite. The last 3 planes have finished refitting and will be available for active service with the Naval Air Group. The first 2 were turned over in 2017 and is being used to patrol the West Philippine Sea. In Quezon City, the local government established a joint monitoring center to check the water supply of areas affected by the water shortage. This is to ensure that residents get enough water supply. Over 285,000 households in Quezon City were affected by the water shortage. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Benj Bondo.
Still to come, authorities arrest a 17-year-old suspect in the gruesome killing of a teenager in Cebu City. The NDRRMC raises blue alert over parts of Mindanao targeted by tropical depression Chedeng. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
The Environment, Tourism and Interior Departments recommended to close Boracay for 6 months.
To address issues such as illegal structures and faulty drainage systems that is affecting Boracay's prized beach.
The last time na nandito is 2017. It's actually crowded. Sobrang dami ng tao. Everywhere, makikita mo talaga bars and drinks and masamahalat talaga.
We had more cases of skin disease. We had more cases of diarrhea.
So nagkasama-sama lahat ng mga agencies, tiningnan ano ba ang plano natin sa Boracay, compliance on Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, at saka yung ating environmental compliance.
When they started demolishing, we saw that there was action, that they put their money where their mouth is.
Lahat ng nagamit na tubig ng customer, we collect it through our sewer lines and then it goes through a treatment process sa treatment plant.
It was nice that it happened. Finally, Boracay got the attention it is in deep need of.
I think a lot of work was done during the closure. The water is clear, the oceans are clean, and there seems to be a lot of wildlife returning. We had for the first time in 10 years, we had turtles hatching on the beach a couple of days ago.
During the closure, you could see like the eagles came back and everything that we have had for a long time.
Pumasyal pa nga yung mga kondito udanding, galing na Cebu.
In the end, it's a good thing, yes. It was hard for us, but it was also a wake-up call.
The beach was cleaned up and is officially set to reopen on October 26th.
Wala nang kumakain sa beach, bawal nang manigarilyo.
Gumanda yung isla namin as in bumalik sa dati na ambience.
We teach kids about pollution, solid waste management, because they're the ones who will sustain all the things that we're doing now.
The NBI has confirmed the arrests of the primary suspect in the murder of Christine Lee Silawan in Barangay Bangkal, Lapu-Lapu City. According to NBI Regional Director Tomas Enrile, the suspect is a minor and ex-boyfriend of Silawan. The suspect admitted that jealousy was one of the reasons he murdered the 16-year-old victim. The suspect was identified and linked to the crime based on several pieces of evidence, including cell phone communication with the victim. Enrile also clarified that the other arrested suspect, identified as Jonas Bueno, is not the actual suspect in the killing of Silawan. Bueno was arrested in Davao City over the killing of 62-year-old Trinidad Batucan in Danao City, Cebu. A total of $1.24 billion worth of investments and project expansions by Japanese companies are poised to flow into the Philippine economy in the near future. These investments in the areas of manufacturing, agriculture, retail, real estate, automotive, as well as education are expected to generate some 16,000 jobs in the country. Trade Chief Ramon Lopez led a business mission to Tokyo and engaged with various Japanese firms. Among the companies investing in the country are Mitsubishi Corporation, Mitsui OSK Lines, Itochu Corporation, ISE Food, and Sumitomo Wiring. The meetings also served as venues to clarify the benefits of the tax reform for attracting better and higher quality opportunities, or Trabajo Bill. Lopez says these expansion projects and new investments prove that foreign companies have strong confidence in the country's economy under the Duterte administration. The National Food Authority, or NFA, is selling affordable rice to remote areas and poor communities in the country. NFA's Tagpuan Rice Response Delivery Program targets indigenous communities and urban poor areas that have no access to government-subsidized rice. The NFA has sold over 32,000 bags of rice at 27 pesos per kilo to 274,000 poor and indigent beneficiaries all over the country. The project will continue until imported stocks are used up. OIC Administrator Tomas Escares says their department is hoping to continue selling cheap rice even after the implementing rules on the rice tariffication law are approved. The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC, has raised its alert status to blue over areas in Mindanao that will be hit by Tropical Depression Chedeng. Chedeng entered the Philippine area of responsibility on Sunday afternoon and is bringing heavy rains to Surigao del Sur, Agusan del Sur, Davao Oriental, Compostela Valley, and Davao del Norte. The NDRRMC has repositioned its equipment to prepare for rescue and relief operations. Residents are advised to monitor the news and be prepared for floods and landslides. Voters from the youth sector in Ilawag joined a solidarity walk to support peaceful and orderly elections. Meanwhile, government troops raid a marijuana plantation run by rebels. More on this and other stories from the provinces from Janice Cave.
In Lawag, Ilocos Norte, first-time voters joined hundreds of participants for a solidarity walk calling for a free, credible, and peaceful midterm elections. The solidarity walk was also attended by church leaders, peacekeepers, teachers, and other organizations. A covenant signing was also held by candidates and other stakeholders. This is one among the series of activities prepared by the Philippine National Police and the Commission on Elections to encourage peaceful and orderly elections. In Calabarzon, the Department of Health is implementing measures to ensure the safety of tourists visiting beaches all over the country. About 70 lifeguards are undergoing training to ensure the safety of beachgoers. Swimming pools and beaches are urged to have at least one lifeguard for emergency situations. In Sarangani Province, government troops and Region 12 police raided a marijuana plantation allegedly operated by members of the New People's Army. Authorities recovered assorted firearms, subversive documents, and dried marijuana stalks and seeds. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Up next, BFAR tells fishermen to brace themselves for the effects of El Niño. Barangay Ginebra stays in the race for a twice-to-beat advantage in the PBA Philippine Cup quarterfinals. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
we may not be able to have the luxury of wide areas anymore. That's why technologies like this are important, because we have to produce more food in smaller areas. And that's why today, I am happy that what I signed in July of last year in South Korea is literally bearing fruit. Literally. Ito totoo, nagbunga na yung ating ginawa noong nakaraang taon sa South Korea. Ito na, ang gaganda. This is the kind of product that we could sell outside of the country. This is the quality of product that we could export.
Two persons were killed in an explosion in Santo Tomas town in Batangas. According to initial report, the explosion happened in Barangay San Roque before noon in a house used in manufacturing blasting caps or detonators. Several houses near the blast site were damaged. Students from a nearby school were sent home for their safety. Police are still investigating the incident. The Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, or BFAR, has advised fisherfolk to prepare for the effects of El Niño. BFAR Director Eduardo Congona says the extreme heat is likely to affect fisheries production as well as the livelihood of fishermen and stakeholders. BFAR is preparing interventions such as livelihood assistance, input assistance through provision of seaweed seedlings and fingerlings, and fish health laboratory service. It also conducts monitoring and information dissemination. In our foreign news, the bodies of those killed in terror attacks on two Christchurch mosques in New Zealand were being returned to their families. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern says bodies of the victims are expected to be returned to their families by Wednesday, Philippine time. The parliament would pay tribute to the victims, and there would be an increased police presence in Christchurch, particularly around mosques. Suspect Brenton Tarrant was being held in a high-security facility. Meanwhile, the Department of Foreign Affairs advises Filipinos in New Zealand to be cautious. Secretary Teddy Locsin ordered authorities there to check for Filipino casualties. Ambassador Jesus Gary Domingo is tasked to coordinate with the Philippine Honorary Consulate in Christchurch and the Filipino community. About 5,000 Filipinos live in New Zealand. In sports, Barangay Ginebra pushed back Magnolia Hotshots in overtime as they seek out a twice-to-beat quarterfinals bonus in the PBA Philippine Cup. Scotty Thompson delivered a career-best 27 points with 11 rebounds to stop Magnolia. Japeth Aguilar churned out his own double-double with 16 points and 12 rebounds. Ginebra avenged its semifinal loss to Magnolia in the last Governor's Cup and stayed in the fight for number 2 seeding in the quarterfinals. Meanwhile, the NLEX Road Warriors trampled Blackwater Elite's chance to survive the eliminations with a 122-101 rout. Philip Pania Mogan, Bong Galanza, and Kenneth Ighalo led the onslaught with a total of 21 three-point shots. Pania Mogan lays his career high, tying 25 points with 5 triples. This win by the Road Warriors have led them to the 7th spot towards the quarterfinals. Newly appointed Australian Ambassador Steve Robinson has renewed Australia's commitment to help in the recovery of Marawi City. The ambassador joined Task Force Bangon Marawi in the distribution of livelihood assistance to displaced residents. Sweet Lokman of the PIA has a story.
Displaced families at Sarimanok Tent City cheer as Australian Ambassador to the Philippines, Steve Robinson, arrives to lead the ceremonial handover of certificates of live birth and livelihood assistance. In his speech, Robinson renewed the Australian government's commitment to helping Marawi rise again as a prosperous city. The Australian envoy personally handed 10 certificates of live birth to displaced children and livelihood assistance to 25 community members under the Marawi Recovery Project, worth 25 million Australian dollars or 930 million pesos, being implemented by the Community and Family Services International for the Urban Livelihood Assistance and United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization for the Agricultural Livelihood Assistance. MRP is composed of psychosocial, livelihood, and protection being carried out to 10 evacuation centers and transitory sites in the city and its surrounding municipalities, helping the most vulnerable displaced families. One of its beneficiaries is Aisha Kalalagan, who stays at Sarimanok Tent City for almost a year now. As a solo parent, Aisha is working very hard in taking care of her 2 children until CFSI gave her a 15,000 worth of cash assistance to open her own slipper store inside the evacuation center.
Minsan nakakabinta ko ng 1,700, so okay na yun sa akin. Nakakatulong po sa akin at sa mga anak ko pang araw-araw.
In his closing remarks, Task Force Bangon Marawi Field Office Manager and Housing and Urban Development Coordinating Council Assistant Secretary Felix Castro Jr. encouraged the siege victims to value what they receive from the government and humanitarian agencies. Both CFSI and UNFAO are part of the Kauyagan Livelihood Convergence of TFBM, distributing livelihood assistance to Marawi IDPs every last Thursday of the month at the Marawi City Hall grounds. Before Robinson's appointment, last November 2018, former Australian Ambassador to the Philippines Amanda Gorley also visited Marawi to show the Australian government's commitment to Marawi's recovery. Together with Wilnard Bacelonia for PNA Newsroom, Sweet Lukman, Philippine Information Agency.
Let's now check out the weather forecast for Metro Manila and the rest of the country. The gruesome murder of a young girl in Cebu has reopened the debate in reviving the death penalty to deter crimes. Is the public open to having criminals sentenced to death, or will they approve a more humane punishment for offenders? We'll find out in today's Boses ng Masa.
For me, oo. Kasi para malesen na yung mga gumagawa ng crimes sa atin, tsaka para matakot din yung iba na hindi na sila mag-try ulit gumawa ng crimes.
Maganda yung mabalik para maano yung mga siraulo ng mga tao, para matauhan sila yung ginagawa nila, din maganda.
Kung yun ang maging deterrent para sa huwag na mag-commit pa ng iba ng mga kriminal para mapigilan sila.
Oo, kasi sobra na ang mga karasang nangyayari ngayon sa ating bayan. Kaya dapat lang siguro yun, kahit hindi na nakakahinayang patay, nakakawang bayan. Wala nang ngayon, walang pinipili kahit na bata, na marunong na rin ng mga karahasan. Siguro nakikita sa nangyayari.
Oo naman. Kasi marami na rin kasing nakakulong siksika na sa kulungan. Dapat talaga, para hindi na sila umulit ng rape, nakukulong, na-absuelto, tapos na naman, rape na naman uli.
Pwede siguro dahil sa talanok ng mga adik ngayon. Marami na masyado na sila salot sa katilipunan.
Death penalty kailangan, it has to be back. Especially sa mga drugs cases, tsaka sa corruption. They deserve to be, to be given that death penalty talaga. especially mga poacher, mga drug traffickers, rapists. Kailangan ibalik ang death penalty.
Let's take another look at today's biggest stories.
Malacanang insists the Philippines was never part of the International Criminal Court as the country's withdrawal from the tribunal takes effect. Authorities arrest a 17-year-old suspect in the gruesome killing of a teenager in Cebu. The NDRRMC raises blue alert over parts of Mindanao targeted by tropical depression Chedeng. And BFAR tells fishermen to brace themselves for the effects of El Niño.
Thank you for watching another edition of the PNA Newsroom. To check out these and other stories, visit the PNA website or follow the Philippine News Agency on Facebook and Twitter. For more stories about the government and how it serves the Filipinos, look for these hashtags on all our social media platforms and websites. And that's your daily dose of latest news and information that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, I'm Rom Dulfo. Good day.